Hello people, and welcome back to part 28 of the Noobs Guide to City Skylines. Hope you're all having a wonderful day. And thank you so much for all the support on the live stream where we came into this expanded green city suburb next to last episode's farmland. And I began playing with the idea of a little bike corridor to flow through a green city suburb. And it's an idea we'll certainly focus on in an episode as we open up the adjacent tile. Which will be the episode after today. We are very nearly at 75,000 population, which is our last milestone. Finally gets us to Megalopolis. And what a journey it's been, right? It's been a really fun city to build. And there's still a lot more builds to be had in that last tile as well. The Noobs Guide isn't over yet by any means, but we are slowly but surely coming towards the end. However, before we do start expanding into that tile, I would like to actually return to the start of the city to totally redevelop and rework our starting industrial area. So when we first build these things, we don't have access to any detailing, any of the high tier service assets that look a lot nicer. We also don't have access to terraforming or any sort of detailing tools. So often I found, especially when I first started playing Vanilla City Skylines, is that these areas remained permanently minging. So hopefully today we can change that. Of course, factoring in everything we've picked up of asset orientations, frames first of all, how assets sit against our major highway networks, and also helping to improve the traffic in this area as well, just because it is starting to choke a little bit. It is moving, but it could certainly be a lot better. So we'll talk about some one-way roads today, also some high-speed access roads that can be brought in to help alleviate the pressure off of the main arterial and collector frames. So this should be quite a fun one, and very much up my street of sort of industrial detailing and asset placements, and lots of layers of height and terraforming to be had here as well. So let's talk about how we can rebuild our starting industrial area in Vanilla City Skylines, shall we? So with these areas, we're going to essentially keep today's episode paused today because once we do everything, Noob Yoke is going to have quite literally zero services. So I have a bunch of power plants over here. I have been spamming coal power plants as and when the city needed electricity. And we will eventually come to build a dedicated power plant area in the map, probably within the new tile spaces. So we need to factor in that we're deleting all the power assets. We will also be clearing out a bunch of garbage processing, so we're going to be losing a waste transfer facility and 2 recycling centres plus the processing complex for this part of the map. So those will also have to be brought back in. And then we also have some water treatment here as well in the shape of 4 water treatment plants, which is actually just about to the point now where it needs a 5th, so kind of perfect timing for that as well. So what I like to do is rip everything out apart from this main road. All these small local roads need to go, every single asset, every bit of zoning, and yeah, just tear everything out if you are following along or indeed putting this process in practice in your own map. Let's just leave some dead frames and then we can totally rebuild at the start of the city. Right, so here we are, everything is gone. We essentially have a brand new clean state now to rebuild the starting industrial area. So, like I said at the start of the episode, when we first made this place, we had access to no terraforming options, no detailing, no fencing, and it was kind of a little bit boring, no overgrowth. So I'm just going to start out my process here by grabbing the terrain height of my collector road here, and then just terraforming up a new layer of height against all of the existing road frames. If we need to buy more soil, then of course we can do. You know, your map might not have this harsher terrain that Diamond Coast does. It might be worse, might be less. But just give it a sort of once over with everything. We've also got a bus depot here as well, which will be moved in a second. Okay, so there we go. So we're playing with quite a drop here, as the highway comes down a little hill, which is okay. So why don't we sort of round this off, and, well, not round it off, sort of square it off really. Create a little box on that elevation layer. And then let's go for maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 or so contour lines up. And then we'll create a new layer of height here that now goes up to our map boundary. So a little bit of soil if we get too full. And then really cut it away, really accentuate those terraforming layers right now. Alright, we'll worry about it at the end. We can always detail, of course, and trim up and refine as we come to detail it. But for right now, we just want those sort of base frames in. I'll probably delete these slip roads as well, I think. We'll rework those today. Wonderful. Let's make sure that we are totally level here. Everyone should be included, and there we go. Let's talk about what we need to replace first. We will start out with our garbage processing. So we of course deleted one waste transfer facility, and we deleted a waste processing complex as well. These are of course from the Industries DLC. No, they're not. They're from Sunset Harbour. My apologies, they are from Sunset Harbour. So we know how to use these at this point, right? We've covered these already in the city. So I'm just going to start by grabbing a road guideline snap frame to my major network, which in this case for me happens to be the highway. And then we'll draw that up there, and then we can let these sit in. And then let's place in our first waste processing complex. So we can place this here. Okay. And, you know, this is a time now, again, to consider orientations. Am I happy with the smokestacks here as the highway comes down the hill? And I think I am. I think I am going to be on board with that. Again, we can decide on orientations. These assets do work very nicely next to each other in repeated patterns because it almost extends the facility and makes it look like one larger asset, which for our industrial areas is very appreciated, isn't it? Okay, fantastic. So we'll have two here. We're going to double those up, and we can see now that we're just a little bit too close to that layer. So I'm going to scoop it out, and then there we go. Go ahead and delete the frame, and then we can bring it back down and around now, making sure everyone has a connection. I'm also going to come off the road guideline here for a brief moment, and then this should be okay. So I also want to bring in two waste transfer facilities, if at all possible. So again, we'll find a place where they can back onto each other, and again, almost serve as a little extension of the asset. Bring it in again, and then again, we'll future-proof our garbage collection a little bit here. So I'm going to place two of them in. Fantastic. Already looking a lot more sort of industrial and important, isn't it? Even though it's just two of the same assets sort of back next to each other and towards each other. Makes a difference. Of course, we won't get started yet, but let's keep seeing what happens with this. So I know this is pretty much going to be my garbage collection layer here, so I'm just going to start scooping out that new layer now for it to sit against this. Of course, lots of overgrowth detailing to be had here, as well as rock patterns that are also available for us. There we go. So I've replaced the garbage that we lost during the deletion process. Let's have a look at some new frames now. So why don't we bring in this one-way flow system that we introduced at the start of the city. We'll have this come up into the area now, and then I'm just going to allow it to come down here, and final connections will be configured. But what I'm really looking for again here is just to set up some initial frames as to what's going to happen with our water treatment assets this time. So again, we'll snap onto a road guideline of our starting frame. And when we built this area, we didn't have access to the eco stuff, which actually have the same amount of drain capacity, but are slightly cheaper upkeep per week. So that sounds like a happy trade-off for me. Let's delete our pipes because these will affect the placements. Right, and then I just want to have it next to the highway here. Want to avoid that happening if possible, so it probably just wants shifting over a little tile, doesn't it? There we go. Wonderful. Fantastic. So we've got that in now. Of course, if you're playing without Sunset Harbour, you can use the regular vanilla ones for this. So now we've replaced two of the water treatment assets that we lost in the mass deletion. So that's going to be wonderful for me. Let's hook these back into the one-way network. And then trim off any ends that we don't need. And I'll probably bring this road down just so it kind of rounds off and gives a nice little border to the side of the fencing. So we can place in one more, but again, why don't we perhaps change it up now? We could go for the smaller ones next door, or indeed mix and match in some of the ones that aren't clean. It's up to you, you can decide which is the appropriate aesthetic that you're a fan of. We can see here where our tiles haven't quite aligned, so what we can do here is just break that one again and then come off the road guideline snap. And then just draw that down. That will reinstate the flush tiles, and then we can get it up right next door. We'll also do the same here again as well. Again, just deciding how you feel about it from the highway. And looking up this lateral line now, we can see a much more important and impressive industrial area, can't we? And it's all thanks to asset orientation. Makes an enormous difference to your builds, everyone. Please do consider it. So we've now replaced the water treatment aspect of the standard industrial area. And we can now trim off some frames. I'm also now believing that I would like to have a layer of height be introduced into the industrial area. And because we've already got a tram bridge flowing through this part of town, then it's kind of already pre-made for us. So I'm going to let this tram bridge carry on flowing through, and then eventually come back down into its connection. Our trams will now take this elevated bridge back out of the area. And then what this does allow us to do now is to carry on our little sort of industrial one-way flow systems. So I'll bring this one down here. Also make this one-way too. One-way systems are really handy with industrial areas. For those that have seen an Avaria cargo port, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. So we do want to bring in some of the regular industrial zoning because this does produce goods for the city. So it's not something you want to totally get rid of. You can of course import all your goods if you like, but it's nice to produce some of your own. So we do want to bring some of that back in because we did lose quite a bit of it. Okay, fantastic. This is turning out quite nicely. We'll hook the one-way flow system into the garbage collection area, for which we will grab a slope tool and just ease out some of that terraforming work that we've done, just for an initial connection. Bring that up. And then again, you can re-terraform that now if you want to keep kind of the accentuated terraforming. It leads into some nice overgrown and rock detailing that you can bring in here. Also, oil industry fence as well will be more than welcome in this part of the city now too. I'm going to split the one-way system over this side now. And now I'd like to talk about some of the power generation that we lost. So we did have a bunch of coal power plants that were outputting 120 megawatts. We will eventually come to build a nuclear plant, I imagine, maybe in this space over here alongside the highway. You know, just so we can talk about the process of making a dedicated sort of power production area rather than just throwing them down on a road like we have been doing. But we can see what we can have. So why don't we have a look at a possible placement of some geothermals, and it looks like we can perhaps squeeze them in quite happily there. It's going to sit quite nicely against the bridge. Right, it's got some nice detail on it already as well, which is quite handy. And yeah, I think that's going to be cool. I'm going to be on board with that idea. Let's keep that. We could also actually decide to repeat this pattern again if we wanted to. Because we are going to need to place quite a few of these. So I think that's what we'll do. We'll perhaps go for, again, that expanded sort of complex of it's like a power facility now. You know, these assets right next door to each other, you can see the detailing that it creates. We get a flush concrete texture, which is very hard to achieve in vanilla. And then some detail within the inner courtyards with bins and props and whatnot. So, happy with that. That can absolutely stay within the build itself. Then all we need to do now is just amend the frames that sit next to it, and then our network is complete. There we go, wonderful. And then we can bring this one up now, just up to that same point, hook it in, and then we know because we pre-measured that another geothermal plant is going to fit in perfectly over here as well. Cool. And again, we can now see these sort of smoke towers starting to erect, for lack of a better phrase, within the industrial area itself, which is really handy. Very cool. Super happy with that. Wonderful. So let's have a look at this space now. So we've replaced the garbage processing completely. In fact, expanded the garbage processing capabilities of the industrial area. Replaced the wastewater processing stuff. We might need a couple more of these. We'll see what happens when we hit play. And then likewise with the power as well. So while we're building sort of an area that isn't within the one-way flow network to keep everyone moving, we can come back to regular two-lane industrial road here. And again, we can see now where we have a layer where our major networks would possibly enjoy lying. We can hook them in here. That's going to give us some nice road against road action. And then we can see that we have an opportunity where we can have that amusement park pathway that we're using to keep everyone walking around the city, and now come onto this new layer that we've created thanks to the terraforming. And let's go for that one. And then we'll do a little 2 curve here, and back down to earth. That should be okay for me. It's more interconnectivity, and there's lots of rock detailing that can be had here now. And you know, when we built this area, we didn't have any office zoning available to us, so we can now replace a little bit of the industry with some offices. We'll perhaps have that there. We also replaced a post sorting facility during this build as well. We can perhaps have that in there, but again, its orientation and positioning is going to be quite important to me. And I think that I actually want it to come and sit a little bit deeper in the area, so we're going to orientate it onto this side instead. There we go. So that's just going to expose that open courtyard on the post facility. Those truck decals, almost like a distribution center. Just going to expose it out onto the main road, which again just improves the look of the build, doesn't it? Makes it look a little bit more official, as we have the post sorting facility that we lost to come and sit here. And the same thought process can also be applied, like we did with the side of the water treatment stuff. Just a little stretch of industrial roads come down the side. Can make a world of difference to it. And there's also a possibility here where we can add in actually another little access point for the Sims to come in. However, because this is coming off the one-way system, I will have this as a one-way. If they want to leave and exit, then I don't want them backing onto this. I want people to just keep flowing around and around and eventually complete a loop back into the roads. So that's going to be pretty good for me. I'm going to be happy with that, I think. We'll leave this here for right now, and then we can decide perhaps what's going to happen here in the middle. Don't forget about your industry DLC stuff here as well. If you want to get a unique factory in, this would absolutely be the time to factor one in. We might even be able to squeeze in the electronics number here, because we do have all 4 of the industrial areas now. Soft paper would be an excellent shout as well, although this one's quite big for this area in particular. But, don't forget about these. Have a browse through your unique factories. The chances are one of them will come and fit in very nicely with your industrial rebuild today. So I might go for the electronics factory. What wants plastics, glass and metal, which we are producing plenty of thanks to our areas. You can see it very nearly fits. Okay, we just perhaps want to adjust our frames by a single tile and it will fit in, but we'll have a look at that later. We'll carry on working on our road network frames first. Let's go ahead and forest brush here. So we will remember that many moons ago we added in this little high-speed access road that just takes a little bit of the pressure off of these main roads. This is what it's here to do, okay? It's not like, so for example, if I garbage here, it wants to, get to that side of the city quickly. It doesn't have to go through the contraflow system and get back on these roads and then force its way through this area back onto the highway. It just has a little high-speed road that the AI will love. You can see what people were using it for here. There's hopefully a garbage truck on here we can find to prove my point. Doesn't like there is right now. But yeah, so that's it's mainly tourists using this road. It just so happens to be, of course, doesn't it? There we go. Yeah, we had one of our park maintenance people coming down here. So, it's kind of a mini ring road. A scaled down process of the idea we had for the downtown ring road, where people have a high-speed access in and out of different areas without having to force their way through the major networks. It's a scaled down version of that idea. All right. So let's come into our two-way highway with sound barriers. This is the one we were using. And I'm going to have this come up here now. We're also going to come out of this road with this design. This is good for me. And then we'll break this off. We'll come onto a road guideline snap. And then we're going to grab a curve tool. And then we'll just bring these two together with a curve tool and a road guideline snap. And everyone's happy. And then this is going to feed directly in. We can also add a little highway slip ramp off of here as well if we like. We should be able to squeeze this in. And then just have it as a little access point to fly off down this way. That should be okay. We'll see how it performs. It might want a little bit of amending. If not, just to bring this one slightly further down. But should be okay. We do, however, want to come in with junctions here. So we'll turn off the traffic lights here. Give priority to the main road. Might even want to end the bridge a little bit sooner. I guess we'll see, sort of about piecing together frames now and then final adjustments and decisions can be made come the sort of main section of the build. So let's now provide connections back into this area over here. Again, there's a possibility as to where we can use some new layers now to help complement the new layers that have come in, basically. So what I want to do now is provide a little bit of access out of the garbage collection area back into the city, because of course they're locked within their frame at the minute because this is a one-way road network. We can do something quite simple. Again, what we did by hooking them into the industrial area on this side, just by doing a little bit of slope terrain. Okay, but then we'll also have a look at another method of doing this too. We can have this come down into the high-speed access road, which is great. It's going to allow garbage vehicles to get in and out of the area very quickly. Or we can add in a layer. And I think I'm going to go for the American two-lane truss bridge for this particular idea. Then I'm going to come up here by 4 elevation points. I'm keeping my bridges as sensible looking as possible. And we can come over this bridge here. It does want that second elevation, so we can keep that down. And then we can keep everyone going on this section. Again, once these are blended in with detail and whatnot, they look a little bit more sensible. Right now they're kind of a little bit eccentric, but we can fix that come the end, of course. You can also scoop this down on another layer as well, which is what might actually do, but we'll decide that come the end, okay? Okay everyone, so change of thought process here. This is a prime example of how I play cities. See something coming together and I decide that it's actually professional bum cheeks come the end. I'm not happy with it. Don't like this bridge anymore. Bridge is being ripped out. Don't like this layer anymore. So we're going to move our bus depot. I'm just going to throw this here for right now. And also the sightseeing number can disappear as well. Away it goes. And post depot is going to leave our friends as well. I'm going to remove some road network frame. Okay, just pause our game as well because this is the access into the area. I think I want to take this area quite industrially focused in terms of factories. So we mentioned earlier about the electronics factory and possibly squeezing it in, but having sort of had a look at the asset, it's a real dominant number. It's got this really nice sort of modern brick wall on it. It's got the big logo on top of it, well, for Leto Electronics. And it really sort of ties the area together. It's a real sort of eye draw for this area. So we're going to run with it, okay? We're going to have that there. Immediately next door, we are going to have the sneaker factory, right? Couldn't have this one in here. We're going to have that one there. So these two factories actually blend really nicely together. Again, it's kind of the similar thought process with the waste transfer complexes. That when you put them together, it sort of merges it into one larger asset. And which, away from unique buildings, is something that Cities Skylines Vanilla particularly struggles with without workshop assets. Okay? So of course we know how to use factories at this point in the Noobs guide. We know that once we place them down, we need to give them warehouses nearby so they can stay stocked. And it just so happens that this measurement here that we drew in earlier happens to hold 2 back-to-back small warehouses near perfectly. We'll be wonderfully happy with that. So let's have a look what they want. The electronics wants plastic, glass and metal. So we will store plastic, we will store glass. Okay, and then let's reinstate our frames now. We'll bring in the one-way system. Again, let's just go ahead and get these frames hooked in initially. Curve if we can. Let's come down by the side here. There we go, hug it right around the back. We'll bring this one out. This can come up and connect. We will have the one-way system come here. I don't want people backing up the system. And then we'll bring this one down. And then we'll just get a cute little, real tiny baby freeform curve here that's manually drawn in by ourselves. Apart from the angle snap, let's keep that on. Then to the road guideline and a curve. Then we can have that in. And then we can hopefully just have a gentle little freeform curve here. And then have that on there. That's wonderful. Let's have this now float as one way around the back of the factory. So of course, factories and warehouses, especially when they're placed down, are pretty significant traffic drawing assets, so we do have to be careful with them. So this one-way flow system is going to help with that. Have a road come down here again. I think we did lose a road maintenance depot from this area, so we're going to have this one over here, and it looks as though we can just about wrap the box around the edge of it. And then an asset that sits really nicely with the road maintenance depot is actually the taxi depot as well. So we'll have that there. That's pretty cute, okay? Gonna have some more taxis for us coming out. More public transport. And then we'll do another warehouse 2. Let's go for a medium number. And again, we can fit this here. We will lose our pathway, but that's fine. We'll bring that back over in a second. And again, that's just gonna expose itself to the highway, isn't it? Okay, a little bit of warehouse infrastructure. Goes a long way. So the last missing resource we want for this is metal. So we've got plastic here, glass there, so this one will hold metal. Now let's check out the sneaker factory. This one wants crops, paper, petroleum, plastic. So we're already storing plastics for the electronics factory, so now we just need to store paper, petroleum and crops. And I think again we can get away with a couple of small warehouse numbers. Let's move this one over a touch though. There we go. You will store paper. And then you will store petroleum. This is a fire safety officer's worst nightmare, surely, having petroleum stored next to paper. And then we're going to come in with a silo here because we need to store crops, which doesn't have a warehouse. You have to use the regular silos. And I think what we'll do is have this one next to the factory. Is that a little bit garish? I think it is, isn't it? I think what we will do is move this one over here. And then we'll drop in another warehouse. Possibly a small if we can squeeze it in. It's going to be a touch too tight, isn't it? That's going to be okay though. What we will do is just use a small warehouse yard instead then. And then we're going to get this one to store unique factory products. So there we go. We have 5 warehouses, which is now stocking everything we need plus the silo for the crops. So our industrial areas will now start to fill these guys out. That's going to be wonderful. Okay, so the post trucks here. I find posts a little bit irritating in the game. It doesn't make us any money as far as I'm aware. My understanding of posts might be off here. If we have a look at our income under industry, post does not have its own tab. Not sure, maybe I'm misreading post a little bit. I find it sort of a little bit of a gimmick, like what does it actually do for us? If anyone knows, please let me know. Maybe you guys can give me a Noobs Guide lesson for once. What is the point of post that came with that DLC? I don't really see the point of it. But either way, it's a cool aesthetic, I guess, to see post trucks, and the post office itself is a nice asset, but whatever. Let's come into our highways now. So I want to upgrade this roundabout here into high-speed 3-lane highway. This is going to dramatically increase the flow through this roundabout. There's nothing wrong with this road configuration. This is just the dumb as hell traffic AI in the vanilla game. Traffic Manager would fix this, but the high-speed road and the extra lane is going to help everyone flow a little bit faster. See how this backlog's totally cleared off of this road now with that faster lane. And we have broken our bicycle highway, but we'll reconnect that in a second. So that's fine now. We're going to be happy with that. And let's just take a minute to appreciate the aesthetic of the unique factories now replacing a lot of that generic industry. We're already looking at a lot more. It looks like a modded area almost, doesn't it? With all those assets in it pieced together. Lots of new layers and depths against those buildings now with the factories in. Really happy with it, especially from the highway interchange as well. It's really quite nicely framed here with the stack interchange, isn't it? Looking alright. It's on its way. It's getting there. Second amendment I'd like to make. So we deleted this bridge here. That was definitely not an appropriate use of the placement of the American Trust Bridge. I was definitely trying to force that in just because I wanted it there, but I'm going to bring a little connection here, and then I'm going to bring this road down. I'm going to get a curve tool. Then we're going to grab that road guideline, we're going to bring it up, and then connect it in. That's going to give us access for the garbage trucks over this side, which is going to be great. What I'd also like to do now is reinstate a little slip road here for the highways. We're going to come off guideline. I'm going to bring down a little curve tool with a one-way highway ramp. We're going to let this run for a little bit, and then we're going to connect it a little bit sooner than that. Let's go for about there, and then we'll upgrade this section where it connects into 4-lane. Okay, that's going to be quite good. So this is going to siphon a lot of traffic out of the industrial area without them having to come all the way back through these road networks. Okay, it's going to be such a big traffic relief for us all. So we're going to do something with the highway here. I'm going to purposely create traffic, but it's going to be for an aesthetic point of view. It's not going to affect us in terms of causing delays with deliveries coming into the city or anything like that. But it's going to be a little bit unique, okay? So what I'm after here is, it's a rush into the city. People are travelling from far and wide across Diamond Coast and beyond to get to New York. And then they arrive here, and I actually want traffic on this highway, okay? It's an aesthetic that I'm after, something that I want to happen, and it's going to be quite an important view, especially to match all this very heavy industry vibe over here as people come into the city, okay? What a nice view this is as well, right? Seeing the skyline poke through there. Very nice. So, I'm going to delete a few sections of highway here. We're going to come into toll booths, and we want to grab a one-way toll booth. So this definitely isn't advisable to do in 95% of cases, is to purposely create traffic. But what this is going to do is, because this slip lane is now going to start adding traffic into the highway, I want to slow down the traffic that enters the city, because it's just going to allow this junction here that tiny little bit more breathing room, which is going to allow people to flow a little bit smoother. But it will create a little bit of a backlog here. It's not going to gridlock, don't worry. I know a few of you are already scrolling down to leave comments to tell me that you're purposely creating traffic. I know that. Okay, we know what we're doing here. We're going to add a little slip road here as well, snapping into the grid, so we can have a little 3-step elevated slip lane here. Again, it's going to be another layer for us. And we're going to create quite a quirky junction here. So again, you know, there's quirky junctions all over the world. And then, yeah, we want to keep this as an elevated section. So it comes down here like that, okay? It does bypass the toll, but that's fine. We're only tolling the highway, which is actually going to make us a ton of money. So we're going to boost this up to max value. And then what I want to do with this slip lane here is actually come out of the bridge. Okay, we want to come up by maybe 1 elevation like that. And then with just the angle snap on, I want to just finagle a little chicane into the highway ramp here. Okay, as close as we can grab it. Probably tip out there. And then we can bring this down. That descent, I just want to sort of redraw that descent actually. Let's come back off this connection here with a road length. Let's do it with an industrial road first, just so it snaps properly. And then we'll upgrade it into highway ramp. Okay, and then this road into that one. And then upgrade, and then flip around. Okay, cool. We'll also add a similar looking slip lane on this side here, which again we want to do industrial road first, because the highway roads don't really behave themselves all that well with the snapping. Okay, so yeah, nice long straight bridge here, and then we're going to come down into highway road. I'm going to keep it ever so slightly elevated, almost like we do with our rail lines. And then we can slowly touch back down to earth as we come into this connection here, and then that gives highway access for that side of the city as well. And then we just want to forest brush all this. And then of course there's lots of highway detailing to be had within these new networks now as well. So quite a few amends there, alright? Quite a few amends. But definitely sort of wasn't enjoying the way it was starting to pan out, and I think these changes now, we've got some much heavier blocky industrial vibes due to the addition of 2 unique factories and those warehouses down there as well, and whilst also maintaining our service areas within this district too. Again, like we mentioned earlier, we do want to make sure that we do replace some of that generic industry that's been removed, and we can now just see little pockets of it where we can perhaps squeeze in a touch of it. So let's come in with some 4 deep generic industry here. That's going to be fine for me. We can do a similar design here if we like, but we might put something else here. Maybe just leave this as overgrown area. Don't want everything zoned up. So let's let things play, and let's see how this affects the traffic around the major networks now. But we've got one more project to do here in a second. But we're just going to observe how things begin to flow now. See how everyone goes. So you'll notice now that this slip lane, the garbage AI, and I mean that as in the garbage truck AI, not as in the quality of the traffic AI itself, which is actually garbage coincidentally, actually loves this slip lane now. Okay, a lot of the garbage trucks that are coming out of our garbage processing area will prefer to now take this exit back into the city. Okay, you'll see this traffic developing now, right? This is what we like. As long as it's not gridlocking, we're happy. And I think a lot of the time, I was very much in this mindset as well, like people see traffic forming and they immediately panic and have to get rid of it, but you know, in a dense city like this, unless you're going for sort of a total rural build, you know, traffic is part of a city. It comes and goes, it backs up on highways, you do get stuck in traffic jams. As long as it's not totally gridlocked and it's absolutely murdered your city and goods cannot get through, then 90% of the time you're okay. It's not something you need to worry about too much. Alright. So here we go. This is getting some nice usage now. Slip lane also getting use as well. Well, we do need to remember to actually upgrade this one into highway ramp. There we go. So it's clearing up a congestion sort of phase in one traffic light rotation here. If you do have traffic manager mod on the PC, doing this stuff makes it vastly more efficient. You time traffic lights, you can set junction restrictions, stop and yield signs. It makes it a lot more effective to manage your traffic, hence the name of the mod. Which we will eventually come to introduce Traffic Manager into the Noobs Guide once we fill all 9 tiles in vanilla. I think we are going to introduce each of the major mods in section Marking Tool, Node Controller, Move It, and Traffic Manager as well, and spend an episode covering what each one does to your vanilla city and how it can improve it. So this will be quite an interesting sort of case study to come back here with Traffic Manager at a later date and say, okay, this is how much better Traffic Manager makes our cities compared to the vanilla AI, right? Wonderful. So it's moving around now. The main junction here was cleared up a whole bunch, right? Really cleared up. So this is just help being alleviated by this little slip lane here. It's taken a lot of pressure off those main arterials for us. You know, we've now got that busy sort of industrial road network. And you know, bear in mind, you know, it's not gridlocking. It's okay. It's not horrendous traffic. It's not murdering the city. Goods are not being delivered rather. And it's okay. I'm happy with it. Enjoying these factories here. Let's go ahead and historicalize these before they turn to something horrible. We'll let one of you two level up so we don't get a repeated asset. But either way, it's coming together slowly, isn't it? Coming together slowly. So the last thing I want to talk about before we do a detailed time lapse today is the addition of some more layers. So we're going to do some more terraforming. I'm going to grab this layer here and I'm going to scoop out all this tier on this side. We're going to do a little bit more here. And then let's break this. So we're going to pause the game momentarily, because this is now going to break. And we're going to scoop out a little gully right through here. I think we all know what's coming, because we usually know what happens, right? When we start to scoop out gullies, it usually means some sort of public transport line is coming into play. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to bring in a train line. This is going to be a cargo train. So I actually do want to do a little bit of level terrain just to give myself a bit of a lip where I can draw a tunnel out from. I'm going to come back into cargo lines. We're going to come underground first and snap into the grid. And then I want to come back up and then just about there. So that just puts the tunnel on a flat elevation, so it looks like the rail is flat going underground. Okay. And then what I want to do is place in a cargo train terminal. So I think the way I want to place this is just about here. Okay, these high density residentials will now need to move. These can't be here anymore. This is too close. Even though high density residential is a lot more noise resistant than low density, across the street from a cargo terminal is too much. So what we are going to do is just spam down a whole bunch of live oaks, because these will reduce that noise pollution and also give us a little bit more sort of authentic, more landscape looking green belt down here as well, I think, which I'm happy with. Okay. Little bit of greenery at the foot of these residential towers over here. It's not going to look too out of place, I don't think. Right, wonderful. Gonna upgrade this road now, not into that one though. That was a misclick. Let's not have that as slip road. So we're going to go to a 6 lane, and then I'm going to grab a just regular 6 lane for right now. I'll have this one come through here. And right the way down this side, all the way down here. Fantastic. Might even upgrade a section of it into trees at some point, maybe down here. And then we can have some treed road action, perhaps. Okay, I guess we'll see. We'll see what happens during our D10 time-lapse, I guess. Then what we want to do is actually connect in our train line now. So let's come back in and grab our freeform tool. Our road guideline snap-on as well. There we go. We can grab that one there. Go ahead and get a nice sensible curve in. Trying not to trigger the gradient and the curve, please, with this one. Then want to grab this layer that our next height is sat on. Again, creating that strong embankment between the two tiers. And I think we can all see what's going to happen here now. We're just going to come in with a little bit of industrial road. I'm going to have this one. We're going to upgrade this now, so we're going to lose the high-speed access through the middle of the town, but it's going to be alright. It won't be an issue. And then this one will come down here as well. And then again, we want to do just a little bit more terraforming So this is going to give us a really nice layer of depth and elevation within the industrial area, which is something that you don't usually see with these sorts of builds. And they do tend to be a little bit more sort of flat on the ground. There we go. So we just want the bridge coming over. It's going to give us enough clearance. And then I do want the bridge to run just for a tiny little bit. Okay, just so it's not immediately back down to earth. And we'll have that in there. And then we'll hook that one back in. And then that gives us more interconnectivity for the garbage trucks to get in and out of their area without having to sort of always follow one route around. See how much this toll booth is making for us now? 118 charged in a week. That's making us an absolute fortune. It's a little bit cheesy to toll booth your highways, but go and Google the M6 toll and then come back to me, alright? But otherwise, some wonderful layers of height now. We've got some import and export now available for this side of the city. Although we do actually want to go ahead and hook it in, so I'm just going to do this by coming back underground. We're going to grab this one. He's going to come all the way through here now. He will emerge out of this suburb, come back up near the monorails, and then we can just get probably some actually pretty heavy parallel rail action now as we come down into this side of the map. Smooth connection in there. That gives us a rail connection for this side of the city. And then let's just leave things on 3-speed now and just see how things choose to move around the area. Hopefully our unique factories are both fully stocked by the looks of it. Looks like this one wants a little plastic delivery. Yes, there we go. Hopefully plastics are coming in. Yes, he should get a delivery now, I think. Yes, the oil paralysis plant truck is dropping plastic off for us. There we go. So hopefully the crops from the farm won't take too long to get here. They are slowly being stored up, so we now start to make a lot more money from electronics and sneaker factories, which are going to be just an enormous money maker for us. That's going to be really good. Cool. So let's bring in some more roads now. I'm going to go for another little section here. Let's bring on just road length and angle. And yes, we will lose that pathway, but we'll bring it back in a second. And I think I'd like to move the sightseeing bus depot onto this layer. Right, just have it facing out onto the main road, in and amongst those office spaces. Which is looking much nice now, isn't it? No, a little bit of frontage office just to hide some of the nastier sort of industry behind it. I think we're looking at a much more industrial looking industrial area now, right? I'm really happy with it. It's really cool. Yeah. Traffic flow down these arterials is much, much smoother now, isn't it? Oh, there's public transport convergence coming in as well. Very nice. Bridge is a little busy. It's looking like, yeah, this is going to be people getting back onto this highway, isn't it? Yeah. That's fine though. The key thing is it's flowing. If you get into this point and, you know, say maybe you've got 4 or 5 factories around here, plus all of that generic industry that we left in at the start of the city, this would be busier. So just as long as it's moving, you're happy. And this is what I want for my industrial area now. I want busy industrial vibes. The city looks a lot more alive now. All these active road networks and bridges get in use. And it's flowing. So sometimes traffic can be used aesthetically. If you want, that's not going to please everyone. It's not going to please everyone, I understand that, but that's how I like to play the game, right? There goes a train for us, yes please, coming into its tunnel now under the industrial area with the train. And the bridge, yes. Very, very nice indeed. Do love a layer, everyone. I do enjoy a layer. And it's good to see all these sort of, you know, slightly more further away connections getting some use now too. Yeah, so it's sort of slowly come to life, hasn't it? Slowly but surely. It does take a while to get there, but eventually you will come up with a vision that you're happy with. And I think this is it for my rebuilt industrial area. This is what I'm happy with now. However guys, as always, that does feel like a wonderful place for a detailed time-lapse. We have a bunch of work to do here. I think what I'm going to do around this little lip of sort of height that now sits against the new terraform layer is do something similar that we did way over in this part of town as our plant burns down. Wonderful. Where is it? Over here. Yeah, just some little sort of breakwater rock vibes just to hide some of the more awkward layers. And then plenty of overgrowth detail around here. Lots of bushes and shrubs. Plenty of content creator grass as well within these spaces, and do create some dead overgrown areas Just a little bit of industrial wasteland will go a long way for us, I think. To detail this area up, within these spaces here, carry on drawing out some generic industry frames so we can do some of that vanilla industry zoning. Alongside include any further service assets that you like, you know. If you're doing a bring in the post sorting facility, I don't know, I don't really see the point of post in the game. I'm not entirely sure what it achieves. I don't know, leave me a comment if you sort of found an effective use for the post service. I don't really see a difference in the city with or without it. Maybe that's just me, who knows. It might just be the way I play. Yeah, so more generic industry frames, more service assets, perhaps some more warehouses as well, which are starting to fill up now. We can see where we've got some of that 1x1 generic industry, which is just helping us to detail some spaces between. So, you know, I don't see why perhaps we can't actually get in a 2x1 there, perhaps delete this one and go for a 3 deep one. So always keep an eye out for opportunities like that, that's always quite nice. And then same, overgrowth, all these areas, lots of industry and ore fencing around this to really give it a sense of perimeter and facility. And then detail all around the network. Same again here as well, reinstate that walking pathway that we lost during the bus depot placement. And then lots of flower rock detailing to bring a little more life and importance into the main street here. This is a really nice bus convergence point too with the metro. It's very satisfying to watch this space here. Noobs Guide is incredibly walkable. And then detail up around our train station here as well. Lots of fencing here and rocks and whatnot. Should look quite nice. But I hope you've enjoyed sort of the thought process today of piecing together larger service assets rather than just sticking them down and letting them do their job. Bringing some factories in now. We've got all 4 level 5 industry areas established. We can keep every single factory in the game stocked. And we will do some more factory complexes, especially within the new tile, which will pop at the start of next episode. As we come to build a new highway interchange and lots more road infrastructure out here. And that will also help the traffic in this area too, because everyone wants to get into the city at this side at the minute and through this stack interchange. Once we have another one down here, a lot of people will come off of this section, because the minute if they want to get back on the highway, they have to come back down this side of the city. So again, it's all about alleviating pressure off different points by giving people more options to get around. But otherwise, let's detail the redesigned starting industry area, and then we'll be right back. Okay guys, so let's have a detailing review, shall we? Before we dive into this area, it has to be said, this is now one of my favourite areas of Newbie Oak. A real example and lesson in orientation and detailing, how it can all tie together. Super fun, let's dive into it. So lots of content creator overgrowth in and around the highway ramps alongside some ore fencing to serve as something of a safety barrier, if you like. Again, more selective placement of generic industry zoning and some pathways with some content creator trees, just to give a little bit more interest to the sides of the road network as and where needed. We did have a building abandoned due to a worker count. This guy just wanted some more workers that we couldn't supply, and I'm going to leave him in. I really like the aesthetic of a abandoned factory, so he's been made historical, so he won't abandon or regrow. Yeah, I really like the abandoned aspect, right? That's really cool. Super happy with that. Some more sort of older areas of the industry development with some generic industry and more content creator patterns, and similar vibes to be had around the cargo line as it comes back underground to head back out of the city for imports and exports, alongside some further frontage designs alongside this generic industry zoning and a service asset here in the form of a police station as well. And more fencing and overgrowth around the train station with some rocks and that faithful Noobs Guide forest, just to give the build a little bit of a border, as all these high-speed road networks begin to kick in over this side. So this is really cute now, super happy with all this design. It's blended in really nice with the existing builds. Down the main street now we're seeing much better traffic flow, having given that little highway slip ramp over here. Underneath this is siphoning off a lot of traffic, which is really helping just alleviate the pressure off of these main arterial frames, which is really cute. Dropped in some rock gardens and more content creator patterns, again just designs that we've come to know and love as we've pieced together our vanilla beginner tutorial city. And then this little bit of overgrowth and plants as it sits in front of the office buildings here, which have turned out really nicely. I really like this little office frontage here. And then we've got a pedestrian pathway which feeds across the highway and then over into this side of the city, so lots more walkability for everyone involved. Again, over on the entrance, these content creator patterns continue to make themselves known, and just an enormous shout out for Mr. Mason getting these trees in the airport's update. They've made an enormous difference to our vanilla detailing palettes, haven't they? Just really superb. Absolutely love the long grass. And then again, these repeated rock patterns, fence and overgrowth designs continue to flank the slip roads alongside the highway. And then we've just overgrown all the back of the water treatment stuff with more generic industry. So I hope you can see now the benefit of sort of allowing the generic industry to bend around the larger service assets, how much of an impact it has in terms of the aesthetics of a build, rather than what it looked like before at the start of the video, right? Just totally different. But we've still got all that generic industry in the city. Our factories are staying wonderfully stocked. We have everything in for our sneaker factory, 11,000 a week coming from this one. And then likewise with the plastics factory, all our warehouses staying nice and stocked due to all of our industrial builds that we put together in the city. So all level 5 for the industry DLC areas, keeping these supplied. So unique factory just making us just lots and lots of money, which is nice. Okay, keeps everyone happy. And then again, office zoning in and around where we've got our bus depot alongside the road too. Again, strategically placed to complement the main road network. And yeah, it's just become a really nice build. I was a little bit concerned about as to how the cargo traffic would perform here around what is already quite a sensitive road network in terms of traffic flow. But it's perfect. It gets dropped off and then all of these goods are just being delivered around the city and everyone's wonderfully happy. It's really come together wonderfully. Like I said, possibly one of my favourite areas of the city now. However guys, that is going to do it for today. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. If you've enjoyed the video, likes, comments and shares below really do help me out. Equally as much if you haven't enjoyed it, then please feel free to leave me a dislike as well. This is just, like I said again, one of my favourite areas. Just really nice lesson in orientation of assets, piecing together service buildings like our garbage collection, a little bit of water treatment, some power production in here as well. And yeah, it's just came together wonderfully. I hope you've enjoyed it and can see the difference now. We can come back to our start of our city once we have the terraforming unlocked on all of our fences and detailing palettes, and we're a little bit more used to the game mechanics now with our terraforming and layers, and you can see what a difference it makes, right? Train lines flowing over little industrial bridges, little pops of height that help sort of the larger service assets stand out on those different layers of terrain. Just, yeah, really enjoy piecing these things together, and I hope it gives you some sort of inspiration to head back to your first generic zoned industry area when you start your city. And, you know, sprinkle 11 secret herbs and spices over it with everything that you've learned over the last 28 episodes, or however many this series is going on for now. We did hit that last milestone this episode, so next time we will be opening the final tile and continuing to build that out with builds like a power plant. We also need to do another highway interchange too. I'm thinking we're going to do the vanilla diverging diamond design. We'll make that an episode. But again, it depends what that area needs as to whether or not a diverging diamond can handle the traffic that comes through. But we'll find that out together. There's also a little lake waterfront over that side of the map as well. And of course, lots of little suburbia and industry and lots of more fun designs to do. We've still got a bunch of unique factories to use. So we'll certainly try and get all of those in. Again, the Noobs Guide is probably more than 3/4 done now, so if you have any more vanilla requests, or maybe perhaps struggling with trying to piece together something in the game that you'd like to see covered in the Noobs Guide format, then get them down in the comments below before the series ends, which isn't that far away now. But please do hang around for some cinematics. This build blends really organically and nicely into the current builds around it, especially this high density bit to the north looking to the downtown. So yeah, hang around for some cinematics and please do enjoy them. But otherwise, I will shut up and I will leave it there. I'd like to thank you all so much for watching. And as always, enjoy the rest of your day.